Hi there, it's Mel Watson here from Island Senior Resources, and I thought this would be a nice opportunity just before Thanksgiving to check in and do another little insight from our caregiver support group. So we meet every Wednesday on Zoom, and this week we had a really wonderful meeting. It was really dynamic and talked a lot about the changing roles as a caregiver. You know, when we have a family member who has a diagnosis of a debilitating condition, whether it be dementia or any other kind of condition, it has kind of a rippling effect that ripples out to family members, community, friends, and all. It changes the relationships. So we talked about how you can be in a situation where you've been married to someone for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, depending. And you have your set roles, your spouses or, in my case, parents. And, you have the role that you have played throughout your whole life. And then a diagnosis happens like dementia and things shift and change, and you realize that it's impossible to maintain those roles. And you might be in a situation where the power structure in the relationship was kind of leaning towards the person who now has the diagnosis of dementia. And it can get really challenging to navigate those kinds of waters where we're talking about safety, where we're talking about things like, can the person still drive safely? Can the person still use tools and maintain the kind of work life or hobby life that they have had, and things can kind of become dangerous and challenging, and you don't know how to navigate those waters and change the situation so that things can be more safe. It's really difficult to navigate those waters, but one of the things that came up from the conversation is that often it's the acceptance piece that enables a person to adjust and change in their roles. And so for me, for example, for my situation, when my mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it wasn't until many years later that I had to come to the realization that I could no longer be that child anymore. I couldn't play that child role, although I really wanted to. I wanted my mum to be my mum and for her to, for us to stay in those roles, but it just was impossible to maintain because my mum, her brain wasn't able to function in that way. I mean, she was physically my mum, but mentally she wasn't my mum. Emotionally, still there under the layers she was, but there were a lot of changes that had to happen. And so I had to adjust my relationship with my mum and adjust my behaviours and start to think about things in a more objective manner, which is really challenging when you have a history of a certain relationship. But what happens after that is that, you kind of look at the relationship, you look at the dynamic that you've had throughout your life, and then you look at the ways that you must change as the family member or the caregiver. But then after, there's kind of like a deeper level of care that kicks in. It's not based in the structure of the relationship. It's kind of like way down deep. And so I can say that from my own experience that the love that I experienced for my own mum, particularly as her dementia progressed, was kind of beyond those roles. It was beyond roles. And so it was kind of, I got to see how pure it was, actually, to be honest. And so, it can be challenging to navigate those changes within a relationship, particularly if the person with dementia has the kind of the powerful role within the relationship. It's really challenging, looks after finances, does the driving, makes the decisions. It can be really challenging to change that. But the good thing about a support group is you have a group of folks who are prepared and able to have a discussion about those kinds of things. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you, and we're coming up to Thanksgiving. Hopefully you'll have a wonderful Thanksgiving and be able to be with family and friends and enjoy. Thank you so much and have a great day.